Well, 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 well. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very interesting subject matter for you. I heard on NPR them talk about Howard Hughes being a germaphobe and how he used to scrub his hands incessantly. Well, that's what we're all doing right now. And while we're all home scrubbing our hands, we're also playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. And what's the most favorite character in Zelda Breath of the Wild? Well, that's got to be the Koroks. The Korok people, including our friend Hestu right here, is some of the best characters, the most friendliest, and helpful characters in the game. All the side quests, all the fetch quests, and all those super valuable equipment expansion slots are granted to us by the Koroks, and we love them. So what would you do if the Koroks suddenly had to, let's say Zelda and Link lost the battle for Hyrule? How would the Koroks evacuate? Well, clearly they would need a giant wooden plane to get away from Ganon and the horrors. And what would they take? Of course, the Spruce Goose. So what we're going to do is do a version of the Spruce Goose as the spirit of the forest tree and put some Koroks paratrooping off the back of it. That's the inspiration for today's drawing, and we're going to get right to work because Tom's caffeinated. He's had a donut, he had a walk, and he just needs to get this thing going right now. So we got Hestu, the Koroks, which are these kind of vegetable people with camouflage on them and funny leaf masks. You know, they're practicing their PPE every day. And then we have the Spruce Goose. And to show you the scale of this thing, that's a Messerschmitt ME262. There's Mr. Tom Tom over here. And then there is this giant wooden aircraft. It's so big. It's so stinking big. Just look at the size of the engines. They're tiny compared to the size of that wing. Just a massive, massive aircraft. It's so crazy. Just the back tail, the tail of the Spruce Goose is a wingspan bigger than a B-25 Mitchell. It's absolutely crazy how big this aircraft is. So we're gonna try to do a little homage painting. Oh, look at this. There's more Korok people. This is what the Korok people look like. There's Mr. Link wearing a Korok mask, which is a big funny leaf thing. And there's the little little chubby Korok dudes with their little masks, and their nose sticking out, and they walk around with the little sticks and bushes, and they're like wiggling in their little berry bushes. They're cute. They're just super adorable. So this drawing today goes out to my friend Joe, who took this wonderful photo of me in Spruce Goose Land, and who inspired this drawing series. It was her idea. Well, it was our idea. We were talking about something, but I'm going to give her credit for it. We were talking about Zelda and Spruce Gooses and all that sort of stuff. So let's get to work. Let's start with getting some kind of background. This thing's going to be in the air, so therefore sky color. Sky color right away. Oh no, did I start the stream and my pen doesn't work? This happens, ladies and gentlemen. This sometimes happens. What a disaster. What a disaster. Let's see what happens if I turn my screen off and turn it back on again. First time in 14 streams that my Wacom tablet and pen did not work when I started streaming. There we go. I said turn it off, turn it back on again, and we're good to go. So what are we going to do? Well, it would be good to get some kind of sky reference. But I was out yesterday hiking, and we just saw like a bunch of beautiful clouds. We, being my buddy and I, were socially distanced hiking together, as all good people do these days. So we'll just have like one major like puffy cloud, a little too dark. Maybe it's a light bedded green, cool kind of blue, kind of green underside because it's reflecting off the color of the world underneath. Maybe there's oceans, maybe there's grass and farms and stuff. So we'll just do like a couple interesting kind of bounce light colors right there. Or just one big cloud kind of coming overhead, and then in the background it's going to be like further away is going to be a little darker, and a little closer is going to be bluer and happier. So the idea being that our Korok friends are going to be flying to a better place. I think that should be the idea. So clouds in the background are going to be a little darker, and a little bit less saturated, less detailed, to really get that atmospheric density feeling. And it can be a little pinker, a little redder even. Like right now, there's so much material in the atmosphere floating around that it can change the wavelengths of what we're seeing. And so that's why it's red, because the red long wavelength light rays are able to penetrate a little bit further, a little bit longer. Blue is a high energy color, right? And it's a little easier stopped. Runs at a speed a little bit faster. All right. So red goes a little bit further. All right, so a little redder, a little darker on the bottom. All right, that's our background for now. It's pretty good. So I'm envisioning some kind of spruce goose shape that's going to go across like this. So that's the main wingspan, I would assume, and then the body of the plane, maybe something like this. A little bit of perspective to it. I don't know, something like that. Something. Let's see. Howard Hughes was a crazy man, wasn't he? He was a crazy man, but he was a visionary. This chap, this weird fellow. The eerie similarities between eclectic billionaires Elon Musk and Howard Hughes. There's a lot in common. There's a lot in common. Once every 60 years, I think we get some kind of brilliant mind like this who comes through and creates stuff for us, invents the new way of thinking. It takes the outliers to come up with the new ways of doing things. I think that's pretty fun. So we have airplane. We might need some more reference of the spruce goose for doing this right. But let's go find that photo again we just had up on screen. Did I lose it already? Probably did. Let's go find where that came from. Give me a second as I find a picture of an airplane. I know we took more photos, and I have many photos of this as well, but they're on my other computer. Okay. Just a massive bulbous front end and 4 engines that are pretty small compared to the wing with a sponson that kind of comes off the side. Sponson the right word? Pontoon? I'm not really sure. So we have this big thing here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That seems pretty right. It's a little cooler because the paint's cooler. So it's going to be like a blue reflection on the top. It's got a giant tail. Absolutely huge tail back then. They made these enormous tails on airplanes for them to be stabilized. And then there's this big belly, because the Koroks have big bellies too. And belly time is important. Gotta get your belly time in. Anyone who's a pet owner knows belly time is the best part of everyone's day. Big belly time. Aircraft. Something like that, something like that, something like that. And then there's going to be, I think we could have Hestu sitting on top of this thing. He's a pretty big guy. With his little, he's a little lighter color. Something like that. And he's going to be flying the shindig, which is kind of funny because Hestu gets lost pretty often. But he's the biggest guy, and he would clearly sit on top of an airplane if he could. Why not? He's running the show. So he's going to have a maraca. He's got to have one of his maracas. He's shaking. And that's how he is flying the plane, apparently. Maybe he's using his feet. Maybe he's flying the plane with his feet. He's up there doing his shaking dance. And he's got his little bag that's going to be flying. It's kind of like drifting behind him. He's got a little pouch full of his Korok seeds. So that's an interesting idea. That I haven't read into the mythos or anything of like what the Korok seeds are. I assume it's the currency of the Korok people. He's hanging out up there on top of the aircraft. Because why not? Highlighted the nose. Let's try to get that front end. Eraser tool. Cockpit. Name shape. What's up, Joe? Korok seeds are Korok poo, apparently. I can't believe that they would exchange what comes out of their rumps to passersby. It's very silly. So let's get that shape. All right. Little bounce side light there. Might need a reference of what the body of this plane looks like. So I might need another photo from the rear section. So we're gonna keep it warm on the bottom, which is unusual for me. Usually I'm going cool in the shadows, but today I'm going to try doing warm shadows because the plane is going to be picking up colors from the earth below, and maybe this is like a flyover, like one of those a mock loop kind of hot like flyby things where there's going to be some Korok dudes in the foreground. Oh yeah, that's what I want. I want to do mock loop. The mock loop is this aircraft training ground in the UK, and they're just the most fascinating footage, especially for my friends who are into aircraft and Top Gun and fighter planes. I should do some fan art of this. There's this beautiful, man, the sounds are incredible. Let's skip ahead, and you can see these airplanes are flying by through this canyon pass in Scotland or Ireland or somewhere. So let's go. Joe, I'm so happy you're hanging out with the stream today. Joe has been one of my drawing companions. Oh, here we go. So this is going to be some inspiration reference for what we're drawing today. Can you all see this? This looks like a C-17 cargo aircraft, American. Big fat boy. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. So we're looking at the colors here. You see how it takes some of the warm green, and then there's actually warm in the shadows, and then it's the cool sky highlights on top, and then we have some engine smoke or heat distortion. Yes! Big flyby of a big boy. Friend of mine from years back, Adam, served in the Ravens, I believe they're called, the Air Force security staff. He used to fly with the C-17s, armed with an M4, ready to protect the aircraft as it was in, ooh, what's this one? RAF A400. I believe this plane is made by a European aerospace company, Airbus. Also very capable. Cool. So the idea is, in the drawing, I believe one of these planes is going to be flying over a low hill, and there's going to have some Korok boys in the foreground. That's what I'm thinking about. So kind of hill here, and then some Korok dudes in the foreground who are probably going to be really excited that the Hestu is flying in with all our Korok friends. Maybe this guy is giving flight instructions. You know, is he too high? Is he too low? Needs to go land over that way, something like that. Yes, that is definitely what's going on. Korok butt. This Korok here probably's got a set of binoculars. binoculars of the forest that would certainly have wooden tubes. I would love that. A pair of wooden binoculars. How cool would that be? It probably wouldn't be very precise because as it got wetter or drier, that wood would change shape a little bit. But it'd be fun. Let's go down here and draw a Korok face. I think this will be fun. Gotta have little berry bits, berry bits, berry bits, berry bits, berry bits. So what we're doing is planning out the drawing still. I'm feeling okay about this kind of plan here. We got some little dudes in the foreground. We got a little like bush or something, maybe a little tree. I mean, the Koroks hide under rocks, so we have to have a rocky thing. Maybe it's not just all grass, but there's some kind of rock shape on top of this little hill here. Gotta make sure they got bellies. A little on the thicker side. And bumpets. Do they have hands? I'm not really sure. Got people watching, tuning in. Thanks for joining, whoever's here. Drawing some Korok fan art. Korok's flying on the Spruce Goose. So I want to incorporate that. I'm thinking in this fan piece that the Spruce Goose and the Great Spirit of the Forest have kind of combined. So I want to put a face in this airplane somehow. Maybe the plane is actually flying itself because it is the giant spirit of the forest tree. It was a big talking old tree. It reminds me a little bit of Alice Wonderland, or what am I thinking of? Dorothy in Yellow Brick Road, Wizard of Oz kind of movie, where there's living trees. There is that sense in Zelda Breath of the Wild that the trees are alive or had been alive at one point, and there's only a few kind of remaining living trees in the world, or sentient plant kind of thing. Let's get some more reference of the spruce goose flying in flight. Didn't get very high, I don't think. I don't think it got up very much, but I want to see the actual shape of the plane, ideally from a lower angle. This looks pretty good. Yeah, that's a good one. That's pretty good. Even though it's in the water, it's still got that same perspective. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so we'll paint. We'll leave the reference image down here in the lower right. Move this all business over a little bit, maybe. I'll draw this up here. Cool. Look at the size of that tail. The tail's enormous. Enormous. Drew's asking, why do you wear headphones while arting music? I usually would, but it's how I don't have speakers turned on. So if someone sends me a message, Drew, that's how I hear the message instead of you hearing the bing, bing, bing. whatever is happening. So that's just a simple answer there. And also I find that I speak a little bit louder because my own voice has been muffled by the headphones. So I don't have feedback. I don't have good line in feedback. I need to get a separate box that gives me audio feedback. Like I heard, so I used to listen to Howard Stern a lot. And while I was on my big road trip around the country, I listened to a lot of Howard Stern, 120 hours on the road. And I can understand why truckers like talk radio because it kind of keeps you awake. You feel like you're part of a conversation. It's fun. And to keep his voice doing what it does for 50 years, he learned that he needed to adjust his microphone. I think Baba Booey did this for him, to a sensitivity and to a level that picks up his voice comfortably so he doesn't have to overexert himself. With the right amount of audio feedback in his headphones, it forces him psychologically to relax and lower his voice and hear it the way that sounds best with the least amount of work too. And that's what I need to do is I need to get some kind of device where I can get real-time audio monitoring. My friend Sven has that. I still need to talk to him. I've been threatening to talk to him about that kind of stuff. But again, I'm not going to make, streaming is not going to be my living. I'm just doing it for fun right now while we're all stuck inside, not going out, not doing much. Interesting fins. I don't remember these vertical fins, like teeth, like they look like shark teeth. They look like counter vortice type projector things. And I don't remember seeing those in when I was at the museum. Although surely they're there. Certainly they're there. Look at these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they actually don't line up with the engines. This one almost does. And then there's 2 on the edge of the second engine. And then these look like they go between the third and the fourth. Huh. All kinds of noise outside. Oh, looks like people's recycling just went blowing down the street. Where I live is a perfect crosswind, east to west, down the street of this townhome community, so it's a wind tunnel. So when people leave their recycling bins out, it just gets blown. Let's see if I can show you guys that. If you see that at all. There goes the trash. Holy cow. Look at it going. Oh, what a mess. Here it comes. Oh no. Oh my goodness. Oh, the humanity. Whoo. Someone's gonna have to clean that up later, and that someone's probably gonna be me. Because I'm on the board of our housing association. This is why I don't recycle. Because the recycling truck comes later when the wind picks up. Ladies and gentlemen, that was fun. That was fun. Sometimes you gotta trash a place just to have fun every once in a while. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to say it that way. Okay, this pontoon is probably too far out of my drawing. So I'm going to cut and move that. Yeah, that looks better. That feels better there. It's going forward just a little bit, probably for strength. Unlock pleasure spike with pain and music is my aeroplane. Is my aeroplane. I can't believe he built this crazy thing. I mean, he was right. Like, the United States did need a large capacity, heavy lift capacity strategic aircraft. He was just ahead of the game. Like, the engine technology hadn't linked up with the power demands, of an aircraft this size. So this thing couldn't even carry cargo. It was so heavy just itself. It had the cube space, like the volume, internal volume was right, but the engine power just was too weak for what they needed to do. So it wasn't until we had turboprops jet engines, that kind of stuff, that you could really get a plane this size off the ground. And then you saw aircraft like the C-17 and the C-5 before it, C-130 even. You know, C-130 could carry a lot more than the Spruce Goose ever could, just because it had those wonderful turboprop engines. So we're thinking about, okay, if the engine comes forward here, we're just going to draw a line contouring the shape of the wing. I think these things really, engines kind of do something like that. And then we're going to draw lines back, because that's going to establish where our different fins are going to be. So we have one fin that's going to come almost parallel with that line. Then we have two fins that are really straddling that line. There and there. See, this is a part, I'm glad I'm doing this drawing, because I didn't know about those counter vortice fins. I'm calling them vortice fins. I'm not sure that's what they are or not, but I'm assuming it's to create some kind of stability and get rid of the vortexes on the wings, or like with the turbulent airflow that's coming off of the propellers. So we'll fill those in, see what that feels like. Does that feel good? It's pretty good. Let's get some of that sky highlight on that pontoon. You have a very clear side shape. And then there's some kind of fin. It's like a blade that goes into the water that cuts the surface tension of the water so that the big pontoon can go into it. And we see that same blade. There's like a belly blade here too, right in the front of the plane. There's those edges that can kind of cut the surface, and so the rest of the plane can softly descend into the liquid. It's like why you want to dive with your hands first, because it splits the water so that the body can come into. It cuts the surface tension. I heard for Olympic skiers, like when they want to practice in the summertime doing jumps, they land in a pool of water that's been bubbling, and the bubbling is breaking the surface tension, and it softens the whole landing deal. I can't tell what's going on in the back. Looks like the rear doors open in this photo? I can't tell what that shape is in the back of the Spruce Goose there. So we're going to have to get another picture. In flight, looks like a smooth line. Save that picture. Ooh, here's a perfect one. Spruce Goose made in flight. Wow, that's cool. This looks like a replica or something, though. Yeah, it's made in 2017. So yeah, this is a model. But maybe that's good enough. Maybe a model is all we need. Yes, we got a YouTube video of a guy. It's pretty good, you know, pretty big scale model. Wow, that's a hobby. That's a hobby and a half. The SAS Flyer. Let's like this video. Cool, dude. All right, let's get this thing to where it's taking off and flying. That's fun. Video is not great reference, but we can see that there's a pretty sharp cut in the belly where it goes from the boat hull towards the tail section. That tail is enormous. Absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. So this is not giving me what I want in terms of reference. Ooh, maybe this profile shot will do better. That tail is absolutely huge. What this is telling me, though, is that the horizontal stabilizer, the elevator in the back, is coming off of the vertical tail. It's not off the body itself, which is quite interesting. I guess that's to get it above the main wing surface. Something like that. All right. Then we still have to figure out how how to incorporate a face. How do we personify this aircraft? Giant. Okay, so this is sharp pointed, and then the body of the plane comes back behind the wing. It's kind of a sharp boat hull thing, and then there's like a little gap. Something like that. It's my most spoken phrase on the broadcasts to date. Something like that. Something like that. What's going on, Drew? How you doing, man? How's your Thursday starting out? You feeling it? You feeling this weather we got? Get a rounded nose. Gonna have some like light propeller. Shadow. Just a little ring like that. Maybe it's a little blue on the top. A little darker underneath. Multiply around here. 30%. Something like that. You know, in this picture on the lower right, looks like that tail's even higher. So what I'm going to do is let's just lower the body down, and then increase this size here. And there's all these little, there are some portholes. There's some windows here. And then there's a lot of tiny windows. And these tiny windows really give us the scale of the aircraft. And this doorway can be a lot smaller too to make it look even bigger. A little lighter on the reflection here. Under the nose. Maybe blend that just a little bit so it gets softer. So we're just going to lightly glaze. Glaze and pick, glaze and pick. So you have a sharp edge. It's going to be a little highlight there. And then it becomes a softer bit there. Cool. We're getting places, ladies and gentlemen. Let's save this. What are we going to call it? We're going to call it projects. Uh-oh. Stream seemed to stop. Pictures. Oh, looks like that thing just fucking broke. Yeah, Facebook just like completely shit the bed, which is pretty wild. We're going to stop this recording now and reconnect Facebook so it keeps going. Let's see if I can stop the stream, get the settings. This is just bonkers. Facebook is very slow today. It is the 9th of April. Well, we'll just keep recording and then upload this whole thing later to YouTube. I think that's what we're going to have to do. So just the Tom stream, we'll finish out, I don't know, the hour or so. Bang out the rest of the decision making and see where that takes us, where that ends up. So I'm going to narrow the back end of this a little bit. I mean, it's almost academic from here anyway, just finishing this piece. We want those, we want to envision the wing coming through the body of the plane. So make any adjustments as needed there. So we'll give a little bit more silhouette to those engines coming forward, those engine nacelles on this side of the aircraft. And we'll move this pontoon back closer to the outermost engine. I think that's pretty good. Lighten it up just a little bit. It's collecting a little bit more light than the underside of the wing. Actually, that might not be true. I'm not sure what would get more light. It might have more bounce light off the top of, or what am I saying? There might be more bounce light coming off the bottom of the wing and less in the crevices where that vertical stabilizer joins up with the rest of the wing shape. It's possible. We want to leave a little bit of air in there, so I'm going to take this background color, just kind of the atmosphere color, and glaze in just a little bit of that, just to make it less contrast in the distance. Feel free to experiment, and whatever works for you. So, paint a little bit more sky on the propeller color, and then a little highlight on the nose of each propeller blade or propeller, I don't know, nozzle, whatever you want to call it, thing in front. Something like that. Let's not forget that we have our fins on this side. Something like that there. That's pretty good. Cool. So you have a pretty good sense of scale. And then how do we want to incorporate a face into this aircraft? It could be like, in the back here. There's like an Easter Island style head. Old god of the forest kind of face. Or it could be painted, like some kind of eye thing here. Is that interesting? Looks kind of Egyptian, doesn't it? I'm not sure if I'm crazy about it. Kind of like just the face, just on the tail. I think that's pretty good. And then we'll have maybe little Korok dudes like jumping out. Whee! You got little parachutes. I think that'd be cool if they were little hang glider bits. Because in the Zelda universe, there is paragliders. There's all kinds of paraglider things. So I think that the Koroks would definitely have their own version of the paraglider thing. So we got little dudes coming out. Maybe there's some Yeah, I think they're jumping out of this door. That'd be cool. I can imagine this is a parachuting door. They're just going out. They're going out. I'll have to invent what the Korok paraglider looks like. That could be a fun project. And this dude down here is so happy. He's got his Korok friends coming in. Whee! There's a guy coming up close. He's coming in for a landing. Feeling it, ladies and gentlemen. Feeling pretty good about this idea. I think there's going to be some pretty legendary fan art. More saturated because it's the underside of a leaf. We probably want some kind of smoke, maybe some, I don't know, some wind trails coming off of this thing, maybe. Some forresty stuff. Take the background and maybe just darken it just a little bit. Just a little bit, that's pretty good. I'm noticing that the cloud is in the same shape and vein as the Spruce Goose. I might just adjust it just a little bit so it's not like in line with it. So it's going to be above, maybe above that cloud. Yeah, that's cool. And then we'll do that, and then just maybe another cloud up here, just a hint, and another guy. Yeah, that's cool. I like that a little bit better. So we just get a little bit more variety, a little break in the silhouette. I think it's kind of good. Like the narrative that this is above the cloud too, and we're going to have established where like the sun direction's coming from. Let's go like 10% screen, some warm color on top of this. Oops, did the wrong layer. That's fine. Something like that there. So I'll keep working on this, I think, on my own time, but we're seeing that this is starting to be an idea, a base idea for a longer illustration. So thanks for hanging out with me today. This is a pretty fun piece that we've started. We'll keep jamming on this as we go on, but thank you just a ton for hanging out and giving me motivation to want to do this kind of stuff. You probably want to like Here, just like a little hint of some speed lines, and they can be light or dark. Maybe they're dark in front of the light clouds, and then they're lighter in front of the blue sky. So we're trying to deal in information here, ladies and gentlemen. A little bit in screen mode, so that'll make it complicated. Yeah, sometimes if you want to paint it dark, it's not going to work in screen mode. Cool. So we can keep working on this, but I think that was enough time spent on it today, and maybe we'll resume a little bit more work on this in the future. Thanks for hanging out.